Good evening, and welcome to Twilight Tale. Tonight, we're traveling far back in time to an ancient city of discipline, silence, and strength. When people hear the word Sparta, they often imagine only warriors, shields raised, spears gleaming, marching in perfect rhythm. But beyond the battlefield, there was a daily life, a life of early mornings, simple meals, strict training, and quiet rules that shaped every citizen from childhood to old age. So as your breathing slows and the day begins to fade behind you, let's step into the lamp-lit streets of ancient Sparta and follow the ordinary hours of an extraordinary people, warriors and citizens. Get comfortable, let your eyes grow heavy, and let the past speak softly. There is a place, far from the bustle of any city, where silence is more than just a stillness of the air. It is a presence, a force that guides the very steps of those who walk upon it. It is here, in the Agoge, beneath the pale, ancient light of dawn, that a quiet ritual takes shape, unseen and unspoken, yet etched into the very bones of a people. The first light of day whispers across the jagged hills, spreading over the earth in slow, golden fingers. The sun, still shy in the east, filters through the cracks in the walls, casting elongated shadows of stone upon the dust-ridden ground. Beneath the dim rays, young Spartan boys awaken. There is no cry of morning, there is no rush, only the soft, rhythmic sounds of breathing, of limbs shifting beneath the coarse cloth of their bedding. They rise, though, as though moved by some ancient force, silent, swift, and certain. It is said that their bodies, though fragile with youth, are already beginning to harden, to shape themselves into something forged not by choice, but by duty. This is the first lesson. The Agoge is not just a school, it is a place of transformation. The lessons here are written not in books, but in the dirt, the sweat, and the quiet ritual of each passing hour. As the boys stand, stretching limbs that will one day carry them across battlefields, they do so not as individuals, but as part of something far greater. Each movement is a silent prayer, a testament to the unseen bond that ties them to the land, to the gods, and to the centuries that came before them. The breath in their lungs is the same breath that filled the warriors of ancient times, their hearts beating the same steady rhythm that once echoed through the empty halls of Sparta's glory. There is no rush in this place. Every movement is deliberate, as if each step taken, each breath drawn, is part of a vast, unfurling story that began long before they were born. The air is cold, crisp, the scent of earth rising in the morning mist. The silence is sacred. The boys' bare feet meet the stone floors with quiet reverence. The smell of firewood and the distant scent of olive trees and salt air drift through the open windows of the Agoge. Outside, the world beyond these walls waits, unseen, unknowable. The time within these walls is endless, an eternal cycle of discipline and reflection. Here, no words are necessary, for the lessons are conveyed in stillness, in the weight of a gaze, in the quiet hardness of the stones beneath their feet. There are moments when they pause, these boys, still, breathless, their eyes meeting the light as it stretches over them. They do not speak of it, but there is something shared, something ancient in these moments. Their training, their struggle, is not just physical, It is a constant dialogue with silence, silence that speaks of a duty that must be carried, a role to be fulfilled in a story that began long before their birth. It is here, in these quiet, unseen moments, that the foundation of Sparta is laid. As the sun rises higher, the boys move to their first task, bathing in the cool waters of the nearby stream. The water, too, is sacred, its coldness a sharp contrast to the heat of the day. Here, the boys do not simply wash the dirt from their bodies, they cleanse their souls, washing away not only the grime of the day, but the very memory of comfort. Their hands move with the fluidity of purpose, as though their every action is part of a greater pattern. They wash their bodies as they will one day wash their weapons, methodically, without thought, without hesitation. The water ripples softly around them, carrying away not just the dust of their bodies, but the fleeting remnants of childhood, the remnants of life outside the walls of the agoge. It is said that this cleansing is more than physical. It is a ritual of renewal, an act that marks the passing of one stage of life into the next. They are no longer boys, they are soldiers in the making, not yet forged in battle, but already bound by something far greater than themselves. After the bath, they gather in silence, kneeling at the simple stone altar where bread and water are offered, humble sustenance for humble souls. There is no feast here, no joy, only the stillness of nourishment. Each boy takes his share, moving with a quiet precision, their faces lit by the soft glow of morning, their minds focused on the task before them. No words pass between them, only the weight of the moment, the shared knowledge that this sustenance is not just for their bodies, but for their spirits. In this place, food is not a gift, but a necessity. Each bite taken, a silent act of duty, an acknowledgement that they are here to serve. As the boys sit in the quiet, their small bodies still and serene, it is easy to forget the brutality of the world outside. The agoge is a world unto itself, a place that exists in suspended time. Here there is no war, no enemy, only the silent, endless progression of discipline, repetition, and reflection. The air, heavy with the smell of earth and stone, fills the lungs with the weight of history. The flickering light from the nearby hearth dances upon the walls, casting shadows that seem to reach across centuries. In the stillness, there are moments when the boys close their eyes. Their minds drift, not in dreams, but in quiet contemplation. They are learning the sacred art of meditation, of reflection. The space between tasks stretches out like a river, each quiet moment deepening their connection to the land and to their shared purpose. Their hands, now still, rest upon their knees. Their breath is slow, measured. It is said that the true strength of a Spartan warrior is not in his muscles, but in his ability to still his mind, to find peace in the chaos of the world. Here, in this silence, the seeds of that strength are planted. The day passes slowly, marked only by the quiet movements of the boys, the soft scrape of their sandals upon the stone floors, the distant sounds of the outside world filtering in through the narrow windows. The tasks are simple, yet profound. The shaping of weapons, the honing of skills, the quiet walk across the training fields. But it is not in the fierceness of their actions that their strength is forged. It is in their silence, their ability to move through the world without distraction, to embrace the ritual of every moment. As the sun begins to set, the light softens, painting the world in hues of amber and rust. The boys gather once more, their bodies tired but not broken, their spirits steady. They sit in the cool evening air, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the dying light. The stillness is profound, as though the world itself is holding its breath. Perhaps it is in these moments, in the quiet, unseen rituals of the agoge, that the true strength of Sparta is found, not in the clash of swords, but in the silence of their hearts. And as the night falls, wrapping the agoge in a shroud of mystery, the boys rest, not in sleep, but in quiet meditation. There are no dreams here, only the steady rhythm of breath, the quiet stillness that echoes through the centuries. In this silence, they are not just children of Sparta. They are the embodiment of a timeless tradition, bound by the earth, the gods, and the endless quiet duty that will one day call them to war. In the stillness, in the silence, perhaps it was never meant to be found. Perhaps it is the silence itself, the echo of the past that shapes them, that forms them into something greater than they could ever become alone. And as the darkness settles around them, a soft whisper lingers in the air, a whisper that may only be heard when we too are ready to listen. In the early hours before the sun crests the hills, the earth holds its breath. A soft mist clings to the fields, weaving between rows of crops like a delicate veil. The wind carries the scent of damp earth, of life stirring beneath the surface, preparing itself for the new day. The light, still distant, casts a silvery glow over the land, dappling the open fields in a quiet, sacred hush. There, in the fertile soil of Sparta, the cycle of life begins again. It is said that this land, the one the Spartans revered, the one they bled for, was not only shaped by warriors. Beneath the sun's harsh gaze, beyond the clang of swords and the pulse of battle, the people who labored in silence held the city's heart. The fields surrounding the great city were alive with more than crops. They were the lifeblood of Sparta, the foundation on which its strength was built. It was in these fields, in these quiet rhythms of growth, that the true power of Sparta pulsed, unseen but ever present. As we move through the stillness of the morning, the earth seems to hum with a deep, sacred rhythm. A woman's hands work the soil with a reverence that speaks of something ancient, something that has always been. Her fingers, calloused by years of labor, trace the lines in the dirt with careful precision. Each movement, though simple, is deliberate. She plants seeds, small, fragile things into the dark earth, whispering a prayer, or perhaps just the still language of the land. The soil accepts them, and the cycle begins once more. There is a deep trust here, an understanding that life springs not from the sword, but from the quiet labor of the earth. It is in the daily rituals of planting and harvesting that the warriors of Sparta are nourished, that their strength is fed. The women, the artisans, and the farmers are the unseen guardians of Sparta's might. The fields, though vast, are not silent. The earth sings its song through the rustling of leaves and the hum of life hidden beneath the surface. A soft breeze stirs the air, carrying the promise of new growth, while above the sky begins to lighten, painting the world in shades of clay red and soft amber. The work of the land is slow, deliberate, almost meditative in its pace. A farmer kneels beside the rows of wheat, his hands steady as they gather the ripened stalks, their golden heads bowed low with the weight of the season's work. The sound of the harvest is a quiet one, no sharp cries, no triumphant cheers, only the soft rustle of grain being pulled from the earth. In these moments, the land and the laborer are one. In another corner of the fields, an artisan works with clay, his hands shaped by years of molding and creating. The pottery wheel turns slowly beneath his fingertips, the soft hum of its motion blending with the sounds of nature. The clay, once cold and lifeless, becomes something sacred under his touch, a vessel, a bowl, a cup to hold the food that will nourish Spartan warriors. Each piece is a testament to a quiet devotion, an offering made in silence. There is no grand celebration here, no applause, only the deep, sacred act of creation, a part of a greater whole. These vessels, these humble bowls, will bear the bread that sustains the warriors, the bread that comes from the hands of those who toil unseen. The quiet clink of pottery against pottery echoes softly in the distance, the sound reverberating across the fields like the distant murmur of the land itself. As the morning light strengthens, the sun rises higher, casting long shadows across the fertile ground. The air grows warmer, the soil rich with the scent of earth and growth, and still the work continues, steady, unrelenting, filled with a sacredness that few can see, few can understand. It is not the noise of battle that shapes Sparta, but the rhythm of these everyday acts, the planting of seeds, the weaving of cloth, the shaping of clay. These are the quiet actions that sustain the city-state, the invisible pillars upon which its strength rests. It is in the small, unseen moments of labor that the Spartan warrior finds his strength. Without the soil, the crops, the bread and the vessels, there is no war, no victory. Without the hands that tend to the land, the warriors would starve, and Sparta would falter. The land itself speaks in whispers, soft echoes carried by the wind that brushes through the golden wheat and rustling olive trees. The world outside, with its promises of glory and conquest, remains a distant hum. Here, within the soil, there is peace. Here, in the quiet, there is sacred purpose. The hum of the earth, the deep, unspoken rhythm of life, fills the air, the sky, the soul. It is a rhythm that beats beneath the warriors' feet, under the hum of their daily training, under the clash of their swords. The earth itself becomes the silence that sustains them, the bread that nourishes their bodies, the soil that gives them strength, the work that feeds their souls. These things are the true foundation of Sparta. It is in the hours between the light and the shadow, when the earth is bathed in golden warmth, that the people of Sparta labor. Their work is not for praise or honor, but for duty, for the unseen, unspoken role they play in the greater cycle of life. As the sun climbs higher, casting the fields in full light, we can hear the soft breath of the land itself, exhaling in the heat of the day. The cycles of planting and harvesting are as eternal as the hills that surround them. The work continues, steady and unbroken as it always has, and perhaps it will continue long after the echoes of war have faded into silence. There is a stillness here, beneath the hum of life, beneath the pull of the seasons. Perhaps in the quiet of the fields, we are reminded that true strength is not built on the clash of steel or the roar of victory, but in the quiet, sacred act of nurturing life itself. The bread and the earth are not just the sustenance of Sparta's warriors, they are the true essence of its strength. In these simple, ancient acts, the foundation of Sparta is forged. And as the day draws on, the workers, those who are never seen in the songs of the bards, continue their labor. The light softens, painting the world in hues of dusky blue and gold. The land sighs under the weight of the day, the shadows lengthen, and once again the earth holds its breath. Perhaps beneath the silence there is more than we can understand, more than the sword, more than the glory. Perhaps it is only in the quiet, in the rhythm of daily life, that the true power of Sparta lies. And as the sun dips below the horizon, we are left with the soft echo of the earth, the whisper of the laborers, and the humble truth that life itself is the sacred work of warriors and of those who quietly sustain them. The sky stretches wide and silent over Sparta, its pale hue tinged with the last traces of twilight as the sun dips low beyond the horizon. The air hangs heavy, thick with the weight of the world, yet there is a stillness to it that speaks of things unspoken. In the distance, the faint outlines of the city walls rise like shadows against the fading light, a reminder of the strength that stands at the edge of the world. And in the quiet spaces between the walls, a single figure moves, a soldier returning from the endless cadence of battle, a figure worn by time, by war, by the very soil of the earth. He walks slowly through the streets of Sparta, his feet light against the cobbled roads that have known both the clang of swords and the soft breath of daily life. The clatter of tools being sharpened echoes faintly in the distance, a reminder of the quiet rhythm that pulses beneath the city's surface. The air is alive with sounds that seem too gentle to belong to a place so steeped in violence. Children's laughter, the rustle of olive trees swaying in the breeze, the murmured conversations of women as they tend to their work. For a moment, the soldier pauses, his breath drawn deep as if he is searching for something more, something beyond the battlefield. It is said that these brief returns to the land of the living, to the embrace of family, are like the shifting sands of time, so fleeting, so fragile. As the soldier's sandals scrape the earth, the world around him seems to soften, to settle into a rhythm that is so far removed from the chaos of war. The soldiers who return to their families find themselves walking between two worlds, the harsh, unforgiving world of the battlefield and the quiet, familiar peace of their homes. There is something sacred in this return, yet it is marked with a quiet tension. The soldier moves through the streets, but he is never quite at peace. The weight of his armor is gone, but the weight of his purpose remains, a shadow that lingers long after the swords have been sheathed. The city hums softly around him. The sounds of daily life fill the air like a lullaby, yet beneath them there is a quiet reverence, a sacred pause. It is a stillness that contrasts sharply with the violence and sacrifice of war. The soldier's footsteps are almost drowned by the gentle murmur of conversation. In the distance, a blacksmith hammers away at his anvil, his rhythm steady and unhurried. Children play in the dust, their laughter weaving through the air like a forgotten song. Yet there is no joy in the soldier's heart. There is only the silence of a man who knows that this peace is fragile, fleeting, and that he is never truly far from the weight of his duty. The faces of his comrades, those he has lost, those who are still out there, echo in his mind, and the quiet of Sparta seems only to highlight the unspoken gap between these two worlds. As the soldier walks deeper into the city, his gaze drifts across the familiar streets, the same paths he once walked with a carefree heart before the war took root in his soul. The olive trees that line the roads seem to stand as sentinels, their gnarled branches reaching up toward the sky, their leaves fluttering gently in the breeze. They too are shaped by the harshness of time, their deep roots intertwined with the land they protect. The city, with its simple stone walls and humble buildings, breathes with a rhythm all its own, slow and sure, marked by the passage of seasons, by the work of hands that never rest. It is a world so far removed from the distant clamor of battle, a world that feels almost too delicate, too fragile to be touched by the ferocity of war. Yet, for all its quiet beauty, there is no forgetting the world the soldier has left behind. Even as he moves through the peaceful streets, the tension remains within him, a pull between the soldier he was and the man who returns to his home. Each corner he turns, each familiar face he sees carries the weight of his duty. The quiet, once a comfort, now feels heavy. There is no peace that can fully erase the scars of war, no solace in these soft, fleeting moments of normalcy. The soldier's eyes flicker to the children playing in the streets, their laughter bright against the soft hum of the city. How can they play so freely? How can they live so untouched by the darkness that has shaped him? The soldier does not know, for the memory of battle, the clang of swords, the scent of blood and sweat, is ever present in his mind, woven into the very fabric of his being. The distant rumble of a chariot's wheels echoes down the street, a reminder that even in the quiet, the warrior's world never truly disappears. The soldier turns toward his home, the familiar stone walls that have always provided shelter, but now seem distant and cold. As he passes through the gate, the sight of his family, his wife, his children, softens the tension in his chest. Yet even in their embrace, there is a distance that cannot be closed. He is home, but he is not whole. The bond between soldier and citizen is fragile, a thread that unravels with every passing day on the battlefield. As the evening falls and the golden light of dusk bathes the city in warmth, the soldier sits with his family, his hands resting on his lap, his thoughts far from the peaceful conversations that surround him. The flicker of the hearth's fire casts long, soft shadows across the room, and the laughter of his children fills the silence. But the soldier remains still, lost in the vast space between war and peace. He wonders if this is how it always is, the soldier's life forever torn between the call to battle and the pull of home. And in that moment, the full weight of his existence presses in on him, the quiet terror that peace is never permanent, that war, like the tide, will always return. As the night deepens and the stars twinkle softly overhead, the soldier finds himself standing once more at the edge of the world he knows, looking out over the city that has always been both his refuge and his prison. The silence that surrounds him is not the peace of rest, but the quiet before the storm. In the distance, the faintest glimmer of a torch flame dances like a star fallen from the sky. The sound of the wind in the trees fills the air, and for a moment he feels as though he might understand the stillness, the balance between war and peace. But the night holds no answers, only questions. Perhaps it is not meant to be understood, this space between war and peace. Perhaps it is a place that cannot be bridged. The soldier stands at the threshold of two worlds, one foot in each, and feels the deep, eternal tension of that place. In the quiet, he knows that neither side will ever be fully abandoned. The soldier will always be a warrior, even in moments of peace. And perhaps as the stars shimmer overhead, there is something sacred in that, the space between, where silence reigns and duty never truly fades. In the stillness of the Spartan evening, the hearth flickers with a soft, golden glow, casting long shadows across the simple walls of a home. The air is thick with the scent of wood and embers, the smoke rising slowly toward the high wooden beams of the ceiling. The light of the fire dances, slow, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of the house itself. Outside, the city is quiet, and the fields lie in peaceful darkness. But here, within these walls, there is movement, there is life, there is duty. It is said that the true heart of Sparta, the pulse of its strength, does not only rest in the warrior's sword or in the fierce discipline of the agoge. No, there is something sacred in the quiet work done here, in the homes where the men and women of Sparta weave the fabric of life itself, where meals are prepared and the hearth is tended with care and purpose. The women of Sparta, though seldom remembered by the songs of bards, are the unseen keepers of the flame, the silent protectors of the home. Beneath the shadow of the warrior's call, they perform their tasks with an almost meditative precision, honoring a rhythm that has always been. Inside this humble home, we move softly, step by step through the silence. The flicker of the hearth creates a warm halo that draws our attention to the quiet figures within. A woman bends low, carefully stirring a pot of food over the flames, her movements slow and deliberate, her eyes focused not on the world outside, but on the task before her. The firelight glints off her worn hands, tracing the path of generations of laborers, women who have sat by this hearth, preparing sustenance not just for the body, but for the soul. She does not rush. Each stir, each breath is an offering, a sacrifice of time, a gift to those who will return home from the field, from battle, from the unknown. Around her, the warmth of a fire seems to fill the room, surrounding her with a sense of sacred purpose. She tends the hearth as if it were a living thing, this quiet flame that has witnessed the rise and fall of Sparta itself. It is said that the hearth is not just a place of warmth, but of remembrance, of the warriors who once sat here, of the families who gathered, of the lost voices that echo softly beneath the crackle of the fire. The flames flicker in a slow dance, casting a deep, reverent shadow across the rough-hewn walls, and in this shadow, time seems to blur. There is a rhythm to this work, a pulse that rises and falls like the steady beat of a drum. The fire must never be allowed to fade. The food must always be prepared. The home must always be kept intact. This is not just a task, it is a meditation, a prayer, a ritual. And as the woman stirs the pot, her thoughts drift, but only briefly. She is tied to the land, to the hearth, to the memory of a Spartan way of life that demands so much. And when her children come to her side, their small faces lit by the warm glow of the fire, she does not speak of the burdens she carries. She only moves, slowly, carefully, with a purpose that is known only to those who have lived beneath the mantle of such duty. The children are quiet as they watch the fire, their faces half shadowed in the glow. Perhaps they too understand the weight of the flame, the life-giving light that sustains them, even as it pulls them into a rhythm they will one day carry themselves. The flickering light of the hearth becomes their universe, and in its glow they are safe, they are whole, they are Spartan. But beneath the safety of this light, there is something darker, the quiet shadow of the warriors who are gone, the knowledge that the peace they now enjoy will one day be broken by the call to battle. Outside, the winds begin to rise, carrying with them the scent of the distant mountains, the sharp, cool tang of the night air. The hearth continues to burn, its warmth a symbol of the permanence of home. Yet beneath this permanence there is a subtle tension, a pull between the quiet rhythms of daily life and the ever-present possibility of war. The fire, though constant, is a reminder of the fragility of peace. Perhaps that is why the hearth is tended with such care, such devotion. It is the only thing that can truly offer solace when the warrior returns, or when the call comes again, and the world outside becomes a distant echo. The woman moves away from the fire for a moment, her feet silent on the stone floor as she fetches a small wooden bowl, filling it with the steaming meal she has prepared. She does not think of the task as a sacrifice, it is simply the rhythm of her life. The hearth must burn, the food must be prepared, the home must be kept intact. Her hands move without hesitation, without thought, as if they have always known what to do, as if the knowledge has been passed through the ages, handed down like an ancient prayer. She places the bowl down on the table, her eyes lingering on the flame as it flickers softly in the hearth. There is a quiet moment of peace, just a brief pause before the next task, before the next movement. The meal is ready, the hearth is fed, and the family gathers. The air is thick with warmth, with the scent of cooked food, with the presence of something ancient. And in this moment, the world outside, the clanging of swords, the distant calls to arms, feels far away, as though it belongs to another time, another life. Perhaps it is in these quiet moments that the true strength of Sparta is found, not in the battlefield, not in the glory of war, but in the quiet tending of the hearth. Perhaps it is in the unseen sacrifices, in the humble acts of care and devotion, that the foundation of a warrior's strength is built. For when the warriors return, weary from battle, it is not the sound of trumpets that greet them. It is the soft, steady rhythm of the hearth, the warmth that awaits them, the quiet strength of the home. As the night deepens and the fire slowly dies down, the woman remains, her hands still at work, her gaze soft and distant. She does not wonder if her efforts will be remembered, for she knows that her duty is not to be celebrated, but to be lived. The hearth continues to burn, its soft light flickering against the deep shadows of the room. Outside, the winds continue to rise, but here, in the quiet sanctity of the home, all is still, all is sacred, all is well. Perhaps it was never meant to be remembered. Perhaps the light of the hearth is a quiet ritual, one that can only be understood in the silence of the night. And as the flames flicker and fade, we are left with only the quiet echo of the warmth it provided, the knowledge that this small act, this simple, sacred duty, will endure long after the sounds of battle have faded into the past. In the pale quiet of dawn, before the sun's first touch upon the earth, the world seems to hold its breath. The sky, still cloaked in shades of dusky blue and amber, slowly wakes as light spills softly across the land. The air, cool and damp with the remnants of the night, stirs with a gentle promise of the day ahead. It is here, along a narrow, winding path, that a single figure begins his journey. The stone beneath his feet is ancient, worn smooth by the footsteps of countless generations, each one following this same path toward the same sacred destination. The path is marked not by grand monuments or towering structures, but by the quiet rhythm of the earth itself. The earth hums softly, as though alive with secrets, with memories of times long past. It is said that beneath the soil of Sparta lies the very essence of the city's soul, its warriors, its victories, its sacrifices. But this path, this quiet walk to the shrine of Artemis Orthia, is a different journey. It is not one of battle or glory. It is a journey of reverence, of silent devotion, taken not by those who seek fame, but by those who understand the quieter, sacred rhythms of life. The first step is always the hardest. There is no grand fanfare to mark the beginning of the journey, only the soft murmur of the wind through the olive trees that line the path. Their gnarled branches stretch like ancient arms, reaching toward the sky, their leaves rustling with the faintest whispers of prayers long forgotten. The figure walks alone, but he is not solitary. He is part of something greater, a silent thread in a tapestry that stretches back to the very dawn of Sparta itself. His feet, though unmarked by the clashing of swords, are no less bound by duty. His is a duty not to battle, but to the gods, an offering of faith, of daily sacrifice, as essential to the life of Sparta as the blood spilled in war. As the path narrows, the trees begin to close in, their trunks thick with the weight of age. The path itself grows quieter, the only sound the soft crunch of earth beneath his feet. Above, the sky is beginning to lighten, though the first rays of the sun are still a distant promise. The air is thick with anticipation, filled with the scent of dew and the earth's slow awakening. The sun, when it rises, will mark the beginning of another day of work, of toil, of preparation. But here, in this stillness, there is a deeper rhythm, a rhythm that cannot be measured by the hours of the day, but by the quiet ritual of life itself. The journey to the shrine is simple, unadorned, unremarkable in its physical nature. There is no grand procession, no fanfare, and yet the journey is sacred, for in the simplicity of the walk, lies the essence of Spartan devotion. As the figure moves forward, his thoughts are quiet, his movements measured. His hands, though unmarked by battle, carry the weight of history. They are the hands of a people who, though bound by the call of duty, know that their connection to the divine is woven into the very fabric of their lives. The offering of grain, the pouring of milk, the quiet rituals of worship are as essential to Sparta's strength as the warriors who march to war. The trees part, and the shrine of Artemis comes into view, nestled between the rocks, half hidden by the earth, as though it has always been there, waiting for this moment. The figure steps forward, his pace slowing as he nears the sacred place. The shrine is simple, stone walls worn smooth by the touch of time, the pillars carved with ancient symbols that seem to flicker in the first light of the day. A faint aroma of incense lingers in the air, the scent of sacrifice. It is here, beneath the gaze of the goddess Artemis, that the Spartan citizens come to give their offerings: grain, milk, honey, simple things, yet profound in their significance. In exchange for favor and protection, they offer their devotion, their trust, and their reverence. As the figure kneels, his hands resting gently upon the earth, a sense of quiet reverence fills the space. There is no rush, no urgency. This is not a place of command or conquest. This is a place of stillness, of submission to something greater. The soft breath of the earth, the slow rising of the sun, the flicker of the fire, these are the things that make up the heart of Sparta, though they are so often overlooked beneath the weight of war and glory. The offering, simple though it may be, is an act of profound faith. It is a reminder that the warriors who march into battle, their bodies and souls hardened by the rigors of Spartan life, are, at their core, sustained by something more than strength. They are sustained by the quiet devotion of those who labor in the shadows, who tend to the hearth and the fields, who offer their lives in quiet reverence to the gods. The sun rises fully now, spilling its warm light across the shrine, casting long shadows across the stones. The figure rises, his offering made. He stands for a moment, looking out over the fields, the distant hills, the city of Sparta that lies beyond. There is a stillness to the moment, a quiet beauty that cannot be found in the clang of swords or the cries of battle. This is the other side of Sparta, the side that does not seek glory, but seeks grace, the side that does not fight, but sacrifices. And in this silence, the soldier, the citizen, the priest, the artisan, all share the same bond. They are all bound to the land, to the gods, to each other. Perhaps it is in this stillness, in these unnoticed sacrifices, that the true strength of Sparta lies, not in the clash of swords, but in the quiet devotion of its people, the offering of grain, the tending of the hearth, the act of prayer. All of these things are as essential to the life of Sparta as the weapons that are wielded on the battlefield. The gods, too, are present in the simple, the quiet, the unnoticed, for they, too, are part of the rhythm of life that moves through the land, through the hearts of the people, and through the hands of those who walk this path every day. as the figure turns to leave, the first rays of sunlight bathe the land in a golden glow, the world around him waking, coming to life once more. The path that led him here is now behind him, but the act of devotion, the silent offering, lingers in the air like the faintest echo. Perhaps it was never meant to be found, this quiet, sacred rhythm. Perhaps the greatest strength is the one that remains unseen, that is carried in the simplest of acts, and as the figure walks back down the path, the world around him feels both timeless and fragile, as though the very earth is holding its breath. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen, and in the stillness of the path to Artemis, perhaps we hear something more than the whispers of the gods. We hear the heart of Sparta itself. The moon hangs high above Sparta, its pale light spilling softly across the rugged hills that cradle the city. The night air is still, wrapped in a deep velvet silence, the kind that seems to hold its breath between each passing moment. Beneath the vast expanse of the stars, there is a quiet sacredness, an ancient stillness that settles over the land, where the only sounds are the whisper of the wind through olive branches and the distant, soft rush of the Eurotas River. It is here, in this sacred, silent world, that the true bond of Spartan warriors is formed, not in the roar of battle, nor in the clash of swords, but in the quieter, more intimate moments of shared existence. Perhaps it is the stillness of the night that allows these bonds to grow, unseen, unspoken, yet felt in every heartbeat, in every shared breath. These are the moments when the soul of Sparta reveals itself, not through its strength or its glory, but through its quiet unity, its bond of brotherhood. The fire in the center of the camp flickers and crackles, casting long shadows over the silent faces of the warriors gathered around it. The flames dance, their orange glow fading into the darkness as the soldiers sit close, not speaking, yet bound by the same understanding. There are no grand words spoken here, no calls to arms, no speeches of honor. Instead, there is just the silence, the warmth of the fire, and the unbroken gaze shared between comrades. The bond they share is not one that can be articulated in speech. It is felt in the way they sit together, in the way the world outside seems to fall away, leaving only the understanding between them. It is said that in these moments of silence, the true strength of Sparta lies, not in the warriors' ability to fight, but in their capacity to trust one another, to understand without words. Each glance exchanged between these soldiers carries a weight that words could never fully capture. Perhaps it is the weariness of battle or the shared memory of loss, but in the quiet of the night, each man knows the other's heart. They do not need to speak to understand the depths of one another's resolve. The bond of brotherhood is not forged in the heat of combat, but in the soft gestures, the unspoken exchanges that happen when no one is watching, when there is nothing left to prove. A soldier leans forward slightly, his movements slow, deliberate. His hand reaches for a small leather pouch, and he unclasps it with a soft rustle. He pulls out a small loaf of bread, breaking it in half, and without a word hands the other half to his companion sitting beside him. The act is simple, almost mundane, but it carries a weight far greater than the bread itself. It is a gesture of trust, of care, of understanding. No words are needed. The offering is enough. The silence between them deepens, but there is no discomfort in it. It is a silence filled with 1,000 unspoken things, a silence where the bond of brotherhood is not only understood, but also honored in the smallest of acts. Beyond the fire, the camp lies quiet. The warriors rest, but they do not sleep. They are not alone in the stillness of the night. They are surrounded by the presence of each other, each warrior an echo of the next. The camp is a living testament to the unity of Sparta, a unity built not on words, but on shared experiences, shared silence. Beneath the silent gaze of the stars, the bond between these men grows stronger. Each gesture, each glance strengthens the ties that bind them together, like threads woven into an unbreakable fabric. In the early hours before the dawn, the air is crisp, the ground still cool beneath bare feet. The soldiers rise silently, their movements fluid and practiced, as if they are one being, moving together in perfect harmony. There is no need for words. Each knows their role. Each knows the rhythm of the day that lies ahead. They do not speak, but their actions speak louder than any words could. They sharpen their weapons with methodical care, their hands steady, their faces calm, as the first light of day begins to stretch over the horizon. The sky turns soft, gentle hues of clay red and dusky blue, and in the rising light, the warriors prepare for the day's training. The camp comes to life, but even amidst the activity, the bond remains quiet, unspoken. A soldier hands his friend a water flask without a word. Another adjusts a comrade's cloak, the gesture small, yet profound. These moments of care, these small, intimate acts, carry a weight far greater than the strength of any weapon. They are the threads that hold the warriors together, the unseen ties that bind them in a way that no battle could. As the sun begins to set, casting long golden shadows over the training fields, the warriors return to their camp. The air is cooler now, the fire crackling softly once again. There are no loud celebrations here, no triumphant cheers. The warriors sit in silence, the flicker of the flames dancing across their faces, their eyes reflecting the quiet resolve of men who have lived and died together, who have shared both the agony and the glory of war. The bond between them is not one that needs to be spoken aloud. It is understood, woven into the very fabric of their being. As the night settles deeper, and the stars appear like ancient sentinels in the sky, the camp falls into a soft, reverent quiet. The warriors rest, but they do not sleep. They lie beneath the same sky, their hearts beating in unison, each one carrying the weight of the silent bond that holds them together. The fire burns low, its glow casting a final, soft light across the camp. The world beyond the walls of Sparta is distant now, a mere echo in the night. Here, in this space, there is only the quiet rhythm of brotherhood, the unspoken understanding that binds these men together. Perhaps it is in the silence, in the quiet moments shared between brothers, that the true strength of Sparta is found. Not in the clash of swords, not in the cries of war, but in the soft gestures, the simple acts of care, and the silent trust that forms the foundation of their bond. and as the night deepens, the warrior's world becomes a sacred space of silence, where every gesture speaks of loyalty, where every glance holds the weight of years, and where the bonds of brotherhood endure, forever unbroken. Perhaps some bonds are never meant to be spoken aloud. Perhaps the truest ones are felt in the quietest of moments, beneath the light of the moon, where memory fades and the echoes of loyalty and trust reverberate in the stillness of the night. Beneath the endless stretch of the Spartan sky, where the hills meet the horizon in a haze of amber and dusty gold, there is a ritual that begins before the first light of dawn. The air is cool, kissed by the breath of the earth, and in the stillness there is something sacred about the first stirrings of the day. The earth holds its breath, and here, within this quiet moment, the Spartan warrior prepares, not for battle, not for glory, but for the simple, everyday act of donning the red cloak. The cloak is humble, woven from the roughest of threads, a simple garment that seems ordinary in its construction. Yet, under the hands that fold it, under the soft movement of fingers tracing its edges, the cloak takes on a deeper meaning. It becomes something more than just fabric. It becomes a symbol of duty, of discipline, of sacrifice. Each fold, each careful tie, is a gesture of devotion to something greater than the self, a commitment to the land, to the gods, to Sparta itself. It is said that the red cloak was once simply a piece of clothing worn for warmth, its color chosen not for the grandeur it would one day symbolize, but for the practical need to blend into the blood-stained soil of battle. Yet as the seasons turned and time passed, the cloak became more than just a garment. It became the identity of the Spartan warrior. And though it may begin as something simple, something worn in the quiet corners of daily life, it is slowly transformed into the embodiment of everything the warrior stands for. The first light of dawn touches the edges of the red cloak, casting a soft glow across the simple fabric. It rests there, folded neatly, waiting. The warrior's hands, calloused from years of toil, move with slow, deliberate care, picking up the cloak and beginning the sacred task of wrapping it around his shoulders. The rhythm is familiar, one movement flowing into the next, as natural and necessary as breathing. The cloth settles against his skin, a weight that is both heavy and light, filled with meaning that cannot be fully understood in words. Each fold of the cloak, each layer of fabric, speaks of sacrifice. The weight of the garment is not in its physical heft, but in the invisible duty it carries. To wear the cloak is to carry the burden of Spartan ideals, the constant discipline, the relentless training, the unwavering commitment to the state. The cloak becomes more than a piece of clothing. It becomes a marker of the silent strength that lies beneath the surface. It is the weight of a warrior who knows that duty is not just something taken up in moments of glory, but something that must be worn daily, in every action, in every breath. As the cloak is tied into place, the warrior pauses for a moment, his hands resting on the folds. The soft, steady breath of the earth fills the space between him and the garment. And in this pause, there is a deep reverence for what the cloak represents. It is not just a uniform for battle, nor is it a symbol of honor alone. It is a marker of the warrior's life, woven into the fabric of his daily existence. The red cloak is worn not only for war, but for the quiet moments, the time spent training, the time spent in silence, the time spent in preparation. It is the cloak that shields the warrior from the mundane, yet also reminds him that he is always, always preparing for the battle that may come. The world around him stirs as the sun rises higher, but the warrior's movements remain slow, meditative. The day has not yet begun, but he is already marked by the cloak, by the weight of duty that it represents. It is said that to be a Spartan is to live for the state, to put aside personal desires in favor of the collective whole. And in the quiet of this morning ritual, this simple act of dressing, the warrior knows that the cloak is not just a piece of clothing. It is the armor of the soul, a constant reminder of the weight of the Spartan way of life. The cloak is now tied into place, its folds tight and secure against the warrior's frame. It drapes over his shoulders like the weight of history itself, yet in this moment it also carries something else, something softer, something quieter. It is the weight of the bonds between brothers, the bonds that do not need to be spoken. The cloak may shield the warrior's body from the cold winds of the world, but it also shields him from the chaos of his own thoughts. It becomes a quiet symbol of unity, of the Spartan ideal that binds the warrior not only to his duty, but to his comrades. As the warrior steps outside, the day slowly unfolds. The sun climbs higher, its rays casting long shadows across the land. The first stirrings of life in the city begin to echo through the streets. The quiet footsteps of children, the murmur of voices, the clang of metal on metal as the artisans and blacksmiths begin their work. The air is still cool, but the warmth of the day is beginning to press gently against the skin. It is in these first moments of quiet, before the world rushes into action, that the warrior's duty is truly understood. It is not in the frenzy of battle or the roar of triumph, but in these simple, subtle moments, when the cloak is worn, when the warrior walks beneath the weight of his obligations, when he carries the ideals of Sparta like a quiet prayer in the depths of his heart.
And though the cloak is but a simple garment, worn daily by every Spartan, it is here, in the stillness of this morning ritual, that its true meaning reveals itself. It is the weight of sacrifice, the weight of duty, the weight of a life lived in service to something greater. The cloak, though humble, is also sacred. It is a symbol of the strength and unity of the Spartan people, worn not in times of glory, but in the quiet, unnoticed hours of daily life. As the warrior walks toward the training fields, the cloak sways gently around his shoulders. The day has begun, and with it, the rhythm of Spartan life unfolds. The weight of the cloak is light in some moments, heavy in others, but it is always present, always reminding the wearer that duty is never truly laid down. It is said that the Spartan warriors did not fight for personal glory, but for the state itself, for the honor of their brothers and sisters. And as the warrior moves through the streets, passing by the market stalls and the familiar faces of his fellow citizens, the weight of the cloak is felt, not just on his shoulders, but in the silence that surrounds him. Perhaps it was never meant to be found, this hidden meaning woven into the folds of the red cloak. Perhaps it is a symbol that only truly reveals itself in the quiet of these simple moments, when the warrior's breath is steady, when his hands are still, and when the world around him fades into the soft glow of dawn. The weight of the cloak, like the weight of duty, is always carried, whether seen or unseen, acknowledged or forgotten. And in its soft, sacred presence, the Spartan warrior moves forward, not just into battle, but into the quiet, everyday rhythm of life. Some symbols are meant to remain veiled, only to be understood when we are ready to listen. And as the warrior steps further into the morning light, his red cloak trailing softly behind him, he carries with him the weight of not just his duty, but the silent bond that connects him to every other Spartan who has ever worn it.
The sky above Sparta stirs in the early light, a soft wash of amber that lingers on the horizon. The morning air is cool, touched by the quiet breath of the earth. In the distance, the hills lie draped in mist, the city walls standing like old sentinels beneath the sky, guarding the secret pulse of the land. It is here, within this stillness, that a ritual as old as Sparta itself begins to unfold, a ritual that ties together the sacred and the athletic, the mind and body in perfect harmony. It is the Gymnopaedia, a festival dedicated to the gods, where strength is not just measured by the muscle, but by the grace of movement and the harmony of spirit. In the soft light of dawn, the first preparations begin. The rhythmic beat of drums starts to fill the air, slow and steady, like the heartbeat of Sparta itself. There is a quiet reverence in the camp, as young men and boys gather around the fire, their bodies lit by its flickering glow. They are silent, their faces set in a concentration that speaks of the years of training, the unbroken devotion to the gods, to their city, to each other. The ritual does not begin with grand speeches or words of triumph. No, it begins in silence, in the quiet rhythm of the body preparing itself for the sacred dance that is about to unfold. It is said that these dances are not merely for show, they are a form of prayer, a physical manifestation of devotion. Whispers tell us that each movement, each step, each turn of the body is a way of honoring the divine, of calling on the gods to bless Sparta with strength and protection. The young men prepare not just to perform, but to offer something of themselves. They oil their bodies, their muscles gleaming in the morning light, their faces marked by an expression of focus that seems to stretch back through the centuries. The ceremony is not just for the gods, it is for the land, for the city, for the unseen bond that ties each Spartan to their brothers and to their home. The dance begins with a single figure stepping forward, the first movement as fluid as the wind that passes through the olive trees. The crowd is still, watching in silence as the young dancer moves with grace and precision, his body bending and twisting in a rhythm that flows like the river's current. He is alone, but not solitary. He is one part of a larger, sacred whole. His movements are a prayer to the gods, a plea for their favor, and yet they are also an expression of something deeply human, an understanding of the balance between mind, body, and spirit. Each step brings him closer to a state of harmony, as if the very air around him is shifting to match the rhythm of his body. The music swells around him, flutes and drums, their sound floating through the air like an ancient echo. The dancers follow, their movements a mirror of the first, a flowing sea of bodies undulating in sync. The rhythm of their feet upon the earth creates a pulse that seems to vibrate through the land itself. The lines of dancers form a living spiral, a symbol of life's endless cycle, of strength, of struggle, of victory, and of reverence. Their bodies are not just moving, they are speaking the language of the gods, a sacred tongue that is understood only in these quiet, intimate moments of devotion. The crowd watches in hushed awe, the only sounds being the breath of the dancers and the quiet murmurs of the onlookers. The air is heavy with the weight of history, with the collective memory of those who have danced this same dance, who have stood in these same shoes before the gods and before their people. And in the fluidity of the movements, there is a sense of peace, a peaceful reverence that rises out of the very soil of Sparta, from the ancient ruins that surround the city to the hearts of the dancers themselves. As the dance unfolds, there is no rush, no frenzy. The movements are slow, measured, each one given space to breathe, to resonate with the rhythm of the earth. The men do not just perform, they become the dance itself, as if their bodies are an extension of the land, of the gods, of the spirit of Sparta. The harmony is not just physical, it is spiritual, a deep connection between the dancers and the city they protect. The festival is not just a display of strength, it is a reminder that strength is not just in the body, but in the mind, in the spirit. The same devotion that fuels the warrior on the battlefield fuels the dancer here, in this sacred moment where the two worlds meet. The final movement of the dance comes, slow and deliberate, like the sun setting beyond the hills. The figures move as one, their bodies turning, twisting, rising, and falling in perfect synchronization. There is a stillness that follows, a pause in time, as if the very world has held its breath. The young men and boys stand together, their arms raised toward the sky, their faces serene in the soft light. They do not speak, for there are no words needed. The ritual is complete. The offering has been made. The gods have been honored. And in the silence that follows, the bond between these dancers, these brothers, is deeper than words can convey. It is felt in the very air they breathe, in the blood that runs through their veins, in the history they carry. As the festival draws to a close, the crowd slowly disperses, the dancers quietly stepping away from the sacred circle, their bodies still humming with the energy of the ritual. The first rays of the sun, now fully risen, cast long shadows across the earth, bathing the land in a soft golden light. The music fades, leaving behind a lingering echo, like a memory that will not fade. The day moves on, but the ritual of the gymnopaedia remains, echoing softly through the hearts of all who participated, all who watched, all who felt the weight of its significance. Perhaps it was never meant to be found, this deeper understanding, this perfect harmony. Perhaps the ritual exists only in these fleeting moments, in the quiet reverence of movement and song, in the unity of mind, body, and spirit. And as the sun rises higher, casting its light across the city of Sparta, we are left with the quiet understanding that in these simple, sacred acts, the true strength of the city lies, not in the clash of swords, not in the roar of battle, but in the quiet, unwavering devotion of its people. Some rituals are meant to remain unspoken, only understood in the silence between the movements, in the space where the mind and spirit come together in harmony. And so, beneath the light of the moon and the stars, the dancers stand, their bodies still, their hearts beating softly in time with the pulse of the earth beneath them, waiting for the next sacred cycle to begin again. As the first light of dawn touches the distant mountains, spilling its soft glow over the land, there is a quiet stir in the air. The darkness of the night lingers for just a while longer, but the golden thread of sunlight begins to weave its way across the valley, touching the village below. The silence is sacred in these early moments, the kind of silence that holds within it all the secrets of the earth. It is said that when the first light strikes the mountains, the world itself stirs from sleep, and with it, the village of Spartan citizens begins to awaken. Far from the grandeur of battlefields and the ringing clash of swords, the village stirs in a way that is almost imperceptible, like the slow exhale of a deep, steady breath. Here, the day does not begin with the rush of preparation for war, but with the rhythm of life itself. The sounds of the morning unfold like a delicate song woven from the earth and the work of hands that tend to the land. The grain that was sown in the quiet months now stretches its slender heads toward the sky, the green tips swaying gently in the wind, whispering the secrets of the earth to those who listen. It is in these simple, subtle acts that the foundation of Sparta is held together. The village, quiet but full of purpose, rests on the edge of the land, beyond the high walls of the city. It is a place where the warriors' families live, where the work of the land continues day by day, without the need for glory or praise. Here, there are no battle cries, only the steady murmur of life in its purest form. The fields, the weavers' looms, the markets, they are the unseen hands that hold the city steady even when the warriors march far from home. The first figures emerge from their homes, drawn by the pull of the day. A farmer, his back bent slightly from years of labor, steps onto the dirt path that winds through the village. His feet are steady on the ground, the rhythm of his steps as familiar to him as the rise of the sun. In his hands he carries a bundle of tools, simple, worn, yet steadfast. His hands are rough with work, but they move with the grace of one who understands the earth deeply. The farmer walks slowly, absorbed in the quiet of the morning, his breath steady with the pulse of the land. The soft, golden light of dawn falls across the fields, casting long shadows over the crops, now ripe and waiting to be harvested. The earth is still cool beneath the feet of the farmer, but the warmth of the day is beginning to spread through the village, filling the air with the promise of work yet to come. It is not the warrior's call to arms that will shape the day. It is the farmer's hands, steady and unhurried, that will feed the people of Sparta. The fields are his battlefield, and with each grain that is harvested, the great city is sustained. At the edge of the village, the sound of a loom can be heard, its rhythmic clicking the voice of a woman beginning her day. She sits in the dim light of her home, her fingers moving with practiced grace over the threads. The loom itself is an extension of her hands, a silent partner in the work of creation. Each pass of the shuttle through the threads is deliberate, creating a tapestry that will clothe, protect, and mark the people of Sparta. It is said that the act of weaving is not merely the creation of cloth, but a sacred act of connecting the past to the present, the labor of the present to the future. And as the woman's fingers work, weaving one thread after another, she carries the weight of history with each movement. Her hands move like those of the earth itself, slow and steady, undistracted by the world beyond. The loom creaks softly beneath her touch, a quiet sound that blends with the rustle of leaves in the trees and the distant hum of the village waking. The act of weaving is sacred here, an unspoken offering made by hands that understand the quiet power of creation. For in every thread, in every pattern is the labor of the land, the sweat of the farmer, the devotion of the weaver, and the strength of the warrior. As the light grows brighter and the village stirs fully to life, the rhythmic sounds of the market begin to fill the air. The traders, their carts filled with the fruits of the land, grains, oils, fruits, and meats, slowly make their way to the heart of the village. They move quietly, their carts creaking softly on the dirt path, their faces weathered by the seasons, but full of purpose. Their voices rise in soft exchange, the simple act of bartering a ritual of its own, one that holds the quiet balance of the village together. The traders are the messengers, the conduits through which the work of the land flows into the city, and though they do not fight in the wars of Sparta, they too carry the weight of the city's survival upon their shoulders. Through their quiet exchanges, the great city is fed. Through their steady work, the needs of the warriors and their families are met. The Spartan warrior may stand strong on the battlefield, but it is the humble merchant, the farmer, the weaver who sustains him. It is said that Sparta's strength is built not just on the warriors who fight, but on the quiet, invisible efforts of those who labor in silence. For every strike of the sword, there is the soft echo of hands that work in the quiet spaces of the village, unseen but ever present. As the day moves forward, the rhythm of the village becomes more pronounced. The women of the village, too, begin their work, their voices blending with the sounds of the market, their movements as steady and rhythmic as the earth beneath their feet. They carry water from the well, sweep the floors of their homes, prepare the bread that will sustain their families through the day. There is no hurry in their work. It unfolds like a prayer, slow and reverent. For the village, like Sparta itself, is built on the small, quiet rituals that sustain life. The sun climbs higher, casting its light on the faces of those who carry on the simple, sacred work of the land. The village of Sparta, though distant from the battlefields, is not separate from them. It is the very heart of the city, where the warriors draw strength not just from the swords they wield, but from the bread they eat, the clothing they wear, the shelter they return to. The work of the village is a quiet offering given each day, not for glory, but for the survival and strength of the whole. As the sun begins to dip low in the sky, casting long shadows across the village, the rhythm of the day slows, but the work is never truly done. The village, like the land, pulses with the slow, steady rhythm of life, quiet and unassuming, yet vital. Here, beneath the weight of the mountains and the vast sky, the Spartan citizens work together, each in their humble way, contributing to the great whole. And in this there is a sacredness that goes unnoticed by many, but remains ever present. Perhaps it is in the quiet, humble moments of life that the true strength of Sparta lies, not in the clash of swords or the roar of the warriors, but in the small, unnoticed acts of labor that hold the city together. Perhaps the land itself, in its simplicity, is a reminder that even the greatest empires are sustained not by glory, but by the steady rhythm of the earth, the labor of hands, and the quiet devotion of those who live outside the walls of battle. Some stories are whispered in the silence of the dawn, carried on the winds through the olive trees. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen. As the first light of dawn creeps over the horizon, soft as a whispered prayer, it touches the surface of the Eurotas River, where the ancient stones stand in quiet witness to the flow of time. The river, winding through the land of Sparta like an ageless vein, mirrors the slow rhythm of the world around it. The surface of the water shimmers in the early light, ripples stretching out from the stillness, as though the river itself is breathing in the quiet of the morning. The stones that line its banks are worn and smoothed by centuries of water, their surfaces marked with the quiet echoes of the past. Each stone, each ripple carries the weight of 1,000 memories, memories of lives lived, of footsteps that have crossed these same banks, of the lives of Spartan citizens who have passed this way, their daily rhythms flowing like the river itself. It is said that the river has always been a part of Sparta. Its waters have nourished the land, fed the people, and witnessed the lives of those who have come and gone. Beneath the silence, there is a hum of history, a pulse that connects the daily acts of life with something greater, something eternal. The river is more than a body of water. It is a bridge between generations, carrying the quiet passage of time in its slow, steady current. And as the sun rises higher, casting a golden hue over the river's surface, we are drawn into the stillness of this sacred place. A figure steps softly onto the worn stones that line the riverbank, their footsteps quiet but deliberate. The stone feels cool beneath their feet, ancient and solid, its surface shaped by the passage of countless footsteps before. The figure pauses, standing at the edge of the river, their gaze lingering on the water's surface, where the reflection of the sky mingles with the movement of the river. The river's surface is a mirror, showing both the sky above and the earth below, blending them into a single, seamless whole. For a moment, time seems to stand still. The figure does not hurry. There is no need for haste. They simply stand, rooted in the silence, absorbed in the moment. The water moves, steady and unhurried, just as it always has. As the figure steps forward, they cross the river, their feet brushing the cool stones as the water flows gently around them. The river, though it moves, never seems to hurry, never seems to push. It is patient, a timeless presence that carries with it the wisdom of the land, the lives of those who have passed. The figure's crossing is quiet, each step deliberate, as though the act of walking through this sacred space is a reflection of the rhythm of life itself. The river, in its eternal flow, carries with it not only the present, but also the past, the echoes of lives lived along its banks, the memories of Spartan citizens who have crossed these waters before, their footsteps lost to time. The stones beneath the water are worn smooth, each one an artifact of the passage of time. These stones, standing as silent sentinels to the river's flow, bear the weight of history, of warriors, of farmers, of artisans, of children. Each stone holds the imprint of generations. Each ripple in the water carries with it the stories of Sparta's past. The river does not forget. It holds the memories in its depths, even as the current sweeps them away, leaving behind only the soft reflections on the water's surface. As the figure reaches the opposite bank, the sun has fully risen, casting its light over the village that rests on the hills beyond. The village lies nestled in the valley, its humble dwellings framed by the distant hills and the wide, open sky. The smoke from hearth fires rises gently into the air, and the quiet murmur of daily life begins to stir. The figure pauses once more, looking back at the river, where the ancient stones still stand in their patient vigil, the flow of water moving past them, carrying with it the weight of memory. The river's flow is steady, never hurried. It carries with it the essence of Sparta's people, their lives intertwined with the land and the water that sustains them. In the quiet of the river's flow, there is a reminder that life, no matter how fleeting, is connected to something larger than the individual, something timeless, something sacred. The Spartan warriors may fight for glory, but it is the quiet, steady rhythm of the land, the labor of the people who tend to it, who nourish it, that sustains the city. The river does not care for glory or conquest, it simply flows, and in its flow there is the quiet assurance that the life of Sparta, the lives of its citizens, will continue in harmony with the earth. Perhaps it is in these small, silent moments that the true meaning of Sparta is found, not in the grandeur of battle or the loud cries of victory, but in the quiet acts of devotion, of daily life lived in harmony with the land. The farmer who tills the soil, the weaver who spins the cloth, the merchant who trades, these lives are as important to Sparta's strength as the warriors who march off to fight. And in the reflection of the river, we are reminded of this truth, that the strength of Sparta is not only in its warriors, but in its people, its connection to the earth, and the rhythm of life that flows through all of them. The river, in its endless, steady flow, whispers to us of time and memory, of what is seen and what is unseen. It reminds us that the lives of those who have come before are not lost. They are carried in the flow, in the quiet ripples that move beneath the surface. The stones, though worn smooth by time, still stand, as if waiting for the next generation to walk across them, to leave their mark, to carry the legacy of Sparta forward. As the day wears on and the sun climbs higher in the sky, the river continues its journey, flowing toward the sea. And we are left here, standing on the riverbank, suspended between past and present, between memory and reality. Perhaps it is never meant to be fully understood, this connection between life, water, and land. Perhaps it is enough to simply stand at the river's edge and listen, to feel the steady flow beneath the silence, to witness the sacred harmony that binds it all together. Perhaps some memories are meant to be carried quietly in the current, fading softly into the depths of time, where only the river remembers. And as the sun sets behind the hills, the river continues to flow, its timeless rhythm a reminder that the lives of those who came before us are never truly lost. They are part of the river, part of the land, and part of the sacred, eternal flow of time.
Beneath the towering fortress walls of Sparta, where the earth meets stone in a perfect union, there lies a world unseen, a quiet pulse, steady and sure, that hums in the shadow of grandeur. Here the early morning light dapples the ground, where shadows stretch long and the city begins to stir. Yet the noise of warriors, the clang of armor, the war cries of Sparta's fiercest has not yet reached these quiet corners. Here in the spaces that lie beyond the reach of battle, there are others, those whose hands shape the unseen strength of the city. The children who laugh in the courtyards, the elders who pass down stories in soft tones, the servants who toil in silence, these are the unseen citizens of Sparta, and their world unfolds like an ancient, forgotten rhythm. It is said that behind every warrior is a story, but behind every city there are 1,000 stories, small, humble, unnoticed by history's sharp gaze, but no less significant. The sun rises slowly, spilling its soft light across the stones, and we are invited into the quiet spaces between the grand battles to witness the sacred rituals of daily life in Sparta. Here there is no rush, no fanfare, only the slow unfolding of hands that craft, hands that nourish, hands that care. The shadow of the fortress falls over them, a silent guardian of both their labor and their legacy. The day begins with the whisper of movement, the soft scrape of sandals across the stone, the scent of freshly baked bread drifting through the air. A woman, her hands worn from years of toil, rises from her place by the hearth. Her fingers are deft as she prepares the simple, sacred meals that will sustain the warriors, the children, the city. The light falls gently on her face, softening the lines of age, and there is no hurry in her steps. She moves as if each action holds significance, as if every loaf of bread, every bowl of soup is an offering, a gift woven from the threads of her life, a life that has been shaped by the invisible rhythms of Sparta's heartbeat. For in the humblest acts, the smallest gestures, there is a quiet devotion that sustains the city as surely as the warriors sustain it with their might. Beyond the hearth, in the shadow of the great fortress walls, the sound of the forge begins to hum. The blacksmith, standing beneath the arch of his humble workshop, strikes the iron with slow, rhythmic precision. The fire of the forge burns bright, illuminating his weathered hands as he shapes the weapons that will one day be wielded by the warriors. His breath rises in soft clouds of smoke, mingling with the heat of the fire, the rhythm of his hammer strikes echoing through the air like a prayer to the gods. He does not fight in the battles, but he knows that his work, his skill, his sweat will be carried into those battles. The weapons he shapes will carry the weight of Sparta's strength, forged not in the cries of war, but in the silence of creation. As the sun climbs higher, the streets of Sparta's lower city begin to fill with movement. The children, their faces bright with the innocence of youth, play in the open courtyards, their laughter drifting on the breeze like the song of the earth itself. They are not yet soldiers, but they carry with them the legacy of warriors. Their games are filled with mock battles, with the same movements that will one day shape them into the defenders of their city. They are the future of Sparta, but their lives unfold here, in the quiet spaces,
where the shadows of the fortress walls touch the earth. Their voices carry the weight of a future yet unseen, and in their laughter there is the soft promise of continuation, the promise that the city will continue to breathe, to grow, to live. A young boy, his hands still soft with the innocence of childhood, takes his turn at the market stall. The merchant, an older man whose eyes have seen the passage of many years, smiles kindly as he shows the boy how to weigh the grain, how to measure the produce, how to carry the city's daily needs into the hearts of the people. The boy's movements are hesitant at first, unsure, but with each exchange, each soft word of instruction, he learns the rhythm of the city's lifeblood. In this quiet moment, there is no grandeur, no rush. There is only the simple passing of knowledge, the steady hand guiding the next generation to carry the weight of Sparta in their own quiet way. Beyond the market, in the distant shadows of the fields, the farmers are already at work, their bodies moving in unison with the earth. The sun is now fully risen, casting a warm golden light over the land, and the rhythm of labor fills the air. The farmers, with their hands deep in the soil, carry the sacred trust of the land, sowing, tending, reaping. Their work is never seen in the grand halls, never heard in the war cries that echo through the city, but it is no less essential. The land, as much as the warriors, sustains Sparta, and the farmers know this truth in the very marrow of their bones. Their sweat stains the earth, their breath mingles with the soil, and in the quiet of their work they uphold the strength of the city, one harvest at a time. As the day begins to wane and the shadows of the fortress walls grow long, there is a quiet stillness that settles over the city. The workers return to their homes, the children's laughter fades into the soft murmur of evening, and the firelight of the hearths flickers in the windows. But even in the quiet, there is a sense of profound purpose. The city is not built on the strength of warriors alone. It is built on the strength of those who toil, who create, who sustain, and who love. Each person, whether they are a farmer, a weaver, a child, or a servant, carries a piece of Sparta's legacy within them. Their lives, though humble, are sacred acts of devotion, acts of belonging to something larger than themselves. And as the moon rises over the fortress walls, casting its pale light over the city, the quiet hum of life continues. Beneath the weight of the fortress, beneath the shadow of war and victory, there lies the quiet, enduring strength of the people. Their lives, their quiet rituals, are the bedrock upon which Sparta stands. And though their names may fade from the annals of history, their contributions are written in the very stones, in the quiet hum of the forge, in the soft laughter of children, in the steady rhythm of the earth beneath their feet. Perhaps it is in these unnoticed moments, in the shadow of the warriors, that the true strength of Sparta is found. Perhaps it is in the quiet labor of the artisans, the farmers, the traders, the elders, and the children that the city's soul endures. And in this sacred silence, as the fortress walls stand tall against the heavens, we are reminded that there is no life untouched by the legacy of war, but there is also no life that is not woven into the tapestry of Sparta's strength, no life too small to carry the weight of the city's heartbeat. Some voices only echo when we are ready to listen, and as the shadows of the fortress walls stretch across the land, we are left in the quiet knowledge that even in silence there is strength, even in the shadows there is light. And so, as night settles over Sparta, the training grounds grow quiet. The voices fade into the stone walls, and the day's duties are finally set down. We've walked through their routines, their discipline, their traditions, their sense of belonging, and the steady rhythm of a society built on endurance, not only in war, but in everyday life. Now, there's nothing else you need to hold onto. No more lessons to memorize. No more battles to fight. Only the soft drift of time carrying you toward sleep. Thank you for spending this evening with Twilight Tale. If you'd like another peaceful journey through history, you can rest here with us again and let the stories continue, one quiet night at a time. Good night, and sleep well.